Hi again, everyone. If you're just now joining us, my name is Tony Alford with Akins IT. I specialize in private public cloud infrastructure. Today's webinar is Don't Lose All Your Data, the Business Continuity Crisis, and it's been broken down into two parts. Earlier at 10, we talked about backup, and now we're going to cover disaster recovery. So as stated in part one, malicious actors on the internet are currently taking advantage of the financial and wellness insecurity that came with COVID-19. We're seeing a 148% increase in ransomware, malware, and data exfiltration attacks during COVID, making these attacks more common than ever before. Unprotected victims of ransomware have two options. They pay the ransom and hope the malicious actor unlocks their resources, or throw out all the affected equipment and rebuild the environment from the ground up. With downtime alone costing $500,000 per hour on average, disaster recovery is a no-brainer investment for protecting your workloads and data from ransomware or other service interruptions. So what is disaster recovery and how can it help you? Site recovery or disaster recovery is a method and solution used to keep your workloads running after you've experienced a disaster event that causes your infrastructure to be unavailable. Disaster recovery boasts significantly faster RPOs and RTOs than backup restoration, which are RPO recovery point objectives, your most recent restore point, and recovery time objectives, the amount of time needed to be up and running after a service disruption. With private cloud disaster recovery and public cloud disaster recovery, your failover or disaster recovery agent is going to maintain an offline mirror of your protected services. The difference being that your private cloud disaster recovery is going to be a site that you manage the infrastructure for, but is separate from your main production site. With public cloud disaster recovery, that failover site, that offline mirror exists in the cloud. Today, we're going to be talking about Azure Site Recovery, Zerto Continuous Replication, and Veeam Replication. Azure Site Recovery is great for replicating Azure VMs across regions or replicating VMs from on-prem to Azure. Has an RPO of over 30 seconds and an RTO of under 2 hours. It's an affordable pay per VM and per data stored price model, and its ease of integration implementation for Azure and Hyper-V VMs make bringing ASR, or Azure Site Recovery, into an existing Microsoft environment that much more simpler. It also integrates with Azure Automation, and you can configure PowerShell, Bash, or any other type of script to run contingent with the failover. The configuration, failover, and failback process does require quite a bit of overhead and admin work, and you're only going to be able to either fail over to another site that you manage or a site in Azure. Zerto Continuous Replication, on the other hand, will replicate site to site, one-way or two-way, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. It also features multi-site replication, in which you can have a bunch of sites that are all replicating in multiple directions. So you could have a headquarters production environment, a data center across the street that you manage that's another offline site, an AWS site, and an Azure site, all ready to fail over to make sure you have the most resilience and availability. It's cloud agnostic, so you're going to be able to use any provider of your choice. And the one-click failover is one of the coolest features in Zerto, and I'll show you that right now after giving you a little tour of the dashboard. So this is the Zerto dashboard. This is what you'll see when you sign into your console. You can see on the top a high-level overview of what you're protecting, the total amount of virtual protection groups, VMs, data stored, compression, and RPO, which we can see is 6 seconds, which is consistent with what we see with other clients. This is pretty consistently under 10 seconds. You can see your IOPS, throughput, and WAN traffic. If you identify, let's say, IOPS that are higher than your environment can support, that gives you an idea that you need to start upgrading your environment to maintain your failover resilience. And then a site topology showing which direction the virtual protection groups are actually going to fail over to. Sites will show you your individual sites in which you can configure the directions. Under VPGs or virtual protection groups, you can get a list of each VPG, whether it's meeting its service level agreement and its RPO. Under VMs, you can get detailed information, or I'm sorry, when you click into VPGs, you can get detailed information On the journal history, so this one's showing 24 hours, that means we can restore to any second of the day in the past 24 hours. And then under VMs, you get the same, except it's the VM level instead of the protection group level. Here's where you can see your alerts and events. Sort them by timestamp, sort them by event ID. Gives you a really nice, easy to see detailed view on what's going on with your environment. Under reports, we can configure my favorite one, the VPG performance report, in which we can select all of our VPGs and view their average performance, and kind of use this as a assessment for what your network speeds need to be to continue to have a resilient environment. Now I'll show you the test failover. Right here, we're going to select the VPG that we want to test our failover capabilities for. Click next, make sure that the execute parameters are as desired, and then verify the failover site directions and start the test. It's going to run for a while, and then at the end of which we can generate a report. Next up is Veeam replication. Good for site-to-site environments where downtime has lower financial impact. So this one is a snapshot-based failover technology, whereas Zerto uses a journal that logs the differences between the offline site and the HQ site. So this will can take a snapshot as often as every 15 minutes, giving you an RPO of 15 minutes or greater, and a really aggressive RTO for snapshot-based failover of under 30 minutes. It's the most affordable DRAS solution. Centralized backup and replication management is really cool. If you're using Veeam backup and replication, you can view the status, the configuration, the reports, the success jobs, fail jobs, everything from the same console with the same login. And this, again, can replicate to private or public cloud, and that replication can be cloud agnostic. You can replicate to Azure, AWS, whatever you prefer. This slide here is a graphic from Island highlighting some of the key features from Zerto and Veeam and what Island Secure DRAS offers between the two of them. Zerto pointed out that as low as 5 seconds for granular recovery replication, and we do consistently see between 5 and 8 seconds RPOs. No impact replication, as snapshot technology is not utilized. That's that journal I was talking about, logging the differences. And extensive RPO history, you can configure it to store to the second failover restore points for up to 30 days. And then on the Veeam side, that user interface that any admin can hop in and click around and figure out what's going on. You can go in with basic computer operator experience, configure your storage extents, configure your backup jobs and your copy jobs without any help, because the user interface is just that simple and makes that much sense. And as mentioned before, they have those aggressive RTOs. Since the VMs are already registered in the cloud, you just power them on whenever you need to fail over. And Island is going to offer with either solution a full VM visibility and control, role-based access to your backups and replication, self-service failover and testing, and full and partial failovers. Summary, just take the time again to analyze your business continuity plan. If you're not using a disaster recovery solution, take the time to consider whether private or public cloud failover is going to work for you, and consider doing multi-site, and do the math on how much downtime your business can afford. If it's been a few years since you've assessed your business continuity plan, you might be surprised at how outdated the information is. And consider managed DRAS for ease of management and peace of mind. Here are some of the managed DRAS bundles that we offer. And again, reach out to us to see which one of these we can customize to your environment and make you more resilient to ransomware, data loss, and service interruption.